When you talked about how authoring technologies could help scholars meet their instructional goals, your responses included engaging and motivating, so the use of these technologies is actually interesting to students and they want to use them. You talked about how they could share their work with others and therefore prepare work that they were happy to share and they were more interested in meeting instructional goals so that other people could see that. You also talked about how these tools also help students in the 21st century to develop those digital literacy skills that are so important nowadays. Also, you mentioned how these technologies are so easy to use that anyone without knowledge of programming can create something like a website or a video or a multimedia production. You also indicated that these technologies help students read, write, and think critically about whatever it was that they were learning. And also, you indicated that through the use of authoring technologies, your students can demonstrate their understanding and therefore demonstrate that they have met their instructional goals. From one of the readings that we had for this session, we learned about the concept of consumers versus producers. And so basically, before we used to have just content consumers. Whatever the content was in the newspaper, we read it, we sat and watched TV. We just sat there and received the content. And that is exactly what was happening in schools as well. And now we have the opportunity to become content producers. So we not only sit there and receive whatever other people are creating, but we have the opportunity to create things ourselves and share with others. Now, what is content producers then? From a rather old article, it's actually from 2005, which is about 9 years ago, still valid. They have defined content producers as somebody who can create a blog or can create or work on a web page, like a personal web page, something for a school, a friend, or an organization. They can share original content, whether it's artwork, photos, stories, or videos online, or they can remix content found online into a new creation. And so the thing I find that this is still such a relevant or the reason why I think this is still an important study to discuss is that even though it was about 9 years ago, back then their research indicated that those teens who were online, 57% of them were already content producers. And this was even before the mobile revolution, even before so many people in America got a smartphone in their hands. So imagine nowadays when tablet computers and smartphones are more readily available and so many people have so many venues to share their pictures, their videos, their stories, their artwork online. Now, using authoring technologies is something that we're not used to, but it's really something that has been advised by educational authors, like for example, in Bloom's taxonomy, the revised version, talks about how we need to drive students to remember concepts, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and take them all the way to create. And this is exactly what they would be doing with these authoring technologies. They would be hitting the highest level of cognitive processing that was indicated in Bloom's taxonomy, the revised version from 2001. I included this here because this is really true. We now have the opportunity to create new things, but we also have the opportunity to use things that others have created, but we have to use them responsibly. So as a teacher, you need to learn about copyright and you also need to teach it to your students. No, it's not right. You cannot use other people's media without permission. So I want to recommend that you go out there. If you ever find an image that you like, your first step should really just be shoot an email to that person if you can identify who's the owner. You would be surprised that you will probably receive the response soon enough so that you could use your media if you were authorized. But if you want to avoid that route, you need to determine whether your use qualifies as fair use. Not just because you're using for education means that it's going to be fair use. This is almost determined on a case by case basis. So even if you have questions, I would recommend you consult with the authorities in your school because they could probably be able to help with that. We can get away with using a lot of media without asking permission, but the moment somebody notices, you'll get into trouble, and you want to avoid that. The other thing is you may want to do is you need to look for media in the public domain or in Creative Commons, and these already public domains, obviously images you don't have to ask permission for. Creative Commons is people creating different types of media and allowing you to use them by default. And in many instances, they just ask that you provide proper credit and they give you the means to do it. In many systems nowadays, they are actually giving you the code for you to embed their videos, their images, and whatever it is they do in your own creations. You just have to basically credit them. So you need to learn to write incorporating citations, not direct quotes, and this is for text. And you also need to learn to cite your sources appropriately, and this means knowing what types of information you need to provide when you're citing a video versus when you're citing a book versus when you're citing a article, etc.